Welcome everyone to another ONcourt Zoom presentation. And today we have Dr. Weinberg with us for our third presentation. And today he's going to be focusing on the upper extremities. So welcome, Bryon.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And thanks again for hosting it. So today, again, just like the last couple of days, the first day we were a little bit more upper extremity and we did some lower stuff. Today, we're going to focus mostly on upper extremity, not mostly, we're going to focus completely on the upper extremity. So again, if there's any pain, if you're experiencing any pain during any of these movements or exercises, stop and, contact a healthcare professional. Just got to say that from a legal standpoint here. If you do get any cramping during any of this stuff, probably not the worst thing. If you do cramp a little bit, that's okay. And again, the intent of what we're going to do today is give you hopefully some new little warm-ups that you can add into your own program or even part of your exercise. And that way, when you guys are self-isolated, you don't need a lot of equipment to get a bit of a workout in. So we'll try to go through a little bit more repetition during some of these movements. And that way we can get a bit more of a workout. And obviously you can use these whenever you please. These aren't the be-all, end-all exercises, and some of the stuff that I say during these presentations might go against some of people's regular thoughts that they have. And again, there's no really right way or wrong way to do any of this stuff. It just comes down to the intent, what your intention is with some of these new movements. So like Mike said, I'm a chiropractor and strength and conditioning specialist based out of the Toronto, Mississauga, Etobicoke area. And as well as I teach assessments to other healthcare practitioners and trainers as well, called athletic movement assessment. So with that being said, we're going to get started. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over the first thing I think we did on day one with the upper extremity. And just for the new people here who haven't attended day one or day two last Wednesday or the Wednesday before, the one concept that I want to go over with everybody again is the ability to build in what we call internal resistance. So again, if I move my arm through the air has zero resistance. If I want to add in an internal resistance, I pretend like I'm moving my arm against either a weight or I'm moving it through a thick sludge, and I'm pretending as I move my arm, there's resistance applied throughout the entire range of motion. So it's almost like somebody's pushing and resisting me as I go through that range. So I typically say with most warm-ups, you don't want to go above 30 to 40% of your maximum contraction. So maximum is just when I contract as hard as I can and I can't move my arm at all. So it's like if I have a 100-pound dumbbell and I can't raise up. So that's maximum contraction. For your warm-up, about 30%. And like I said at the beginning, you can use some of these exercises as part of an actual exercise program or strength and conditioning program. You just add in more internal resistance. I know a lot of people here don't have the luxury of having a gym or weights or anything like that. So again, this is something that you can do on your own. All right. So we're going to start off, like I said, with the first thing we did on day one. And I'm going to try to set up my computer that way everybody can see me as best as I can. So we typically see on the tennis court, when people warm up their shoulders, we see them rotating their arms through big circles and then a little bit of small circles. There's nothing wrong with that. One of the things is with that, you're using momentum to carry the shoulder forwards and backwards. Again, not a bad thing because it also teaches your body how to decelerate the movement as well. But what we're going to do here is we're going to go a little bit more slow and controlled. And the idea is we're going to learn how to isolate that shoulder joint a little bit better. So we're teaching our bodies how to control and coordinate one part of our body. All right. So I'm going to demonstrate really quickly and then we're going to all try it. And I think this will be the only exercise that we've already gone over, but I like starting with this one because it's a great way to warm up your shoulder. So what you'll do is you can do it standing with your thumb facing forward. You're going to add in that internal resistance. So I'm going to contract my bicep. I'm going to contract my forearm. I'm going to try to contract my pecs and all the muscles around this area here. And I'm going to slowly bring my arm. So it's slowly. I'm not just throwing it up because I'm adding that resistance, and I'm going to bring it all the way up overhead, okay, as far back as I can go without using any other parts of my body. So I don't want to see any of this happening. And what I've noticed with a lot of the tennis players I treat, they actually lack adequate, what they call shoulder flexion. They lack the ability to get their arm up overhead without compensating through their low back, putting more stress on their low back and their stomach as well. So once you hit that position, then you're going to pronate. So you're going to turn your hand outwards. Just trying to see if I can see myself here. And you're going to start to rotate all the way back and down so that your pinky is now facing forwards. Now, when I got to that position here, my chest did not rotate. I kept my chest like a laser beam facing forward against the wall in front of me. Once you're in that finished position where your pinky is facing forward, you reverse it. You're going to bring your thumb all the way back, as far back as it can go, and then you're going to start to rotate. You'll figure out which way to rotate, because if you try to rotate the other way, you're going to be stuck again. So you have to supinate. So it's the opposite of what you do on your serve when you pronate, and then you're going to follow it all the way back down. So we're making a big circle. We're adding in that internal resistance to also allow some of that tissue to hopefully adapt and create some strength through a full range of motion. All right, because on the tennis court, your shoulder is going to go through that range at one point or another. So we want to prepare ourselves to be ready for that position. All right, so we're all going to do it together. So let's all stand up. We'll start with the right arm here. Everybody standing up, including Denny's. Stand up, buddy. Sorry, I'll call out some people here today if you have your camera on, because it's more fun that way. All right, so thumb facing forward. Nice, good big posture, nice big chest. You're going to start bringing your thumb and arm up overhead. Add in that resistance. So contract your bicep, contract your shoulder, nice and slow. It should be slow and controlled. I want you to be aware of what's going on with your head and neck, and as well as your trunk. So when you get to your barrier, your end range overhead, I want you to try to get a little bit further without moving your head and neck and without moving your chest and your low back. Once you hit that, you're going to pronate. So you're going to turn your hand outwards, back and down, and again, keep adding in that internal resistance. Don't just allow for the gravity to bring your arm down. So you're going to bring it all the way back down. Your pinky should now be facing forwards. Now we're going to reverse it, thumb back as far as you can go. Now, once you get there, guys, I want you all to pause for me. Pause, and now try to get a little bit further without bending forward. So try to get an extra millimeter or a couple degrees out of it. Now you're going to turn your palm outwards and start to bring your arm up and around. And once you get to about the letter Y, I want you to pause and make sure your chest now is facing forwards. So don't let it deviate and rotate off of that position you started. Now continue up and slowly back down. So you're going to engage all this stuff here as if somebody's pushing against you. Nice and slow, nice and controlled. We're going to do that one more time. Nice and forward. Keep going. Add in that resistance. If you want to make it more than 30%, be my guest. If you want more of a workout, you're going to keep coming all the way back. Do not move your head. Do not move your neck, and keep your ribs down. Keep those ribs down. That way you don't arch through the low back. Once you hit your barrier, try to go a little further. Now pronate. Turn your hand out. Start to come around and pause. For 1 second, just pause. Make sure your chest is not rotating. You're going to catch yourself cheating a little bit. Now keep going. Make sure the chest is forward. Add in that internal resistance. Even on the way down, contract. And all the way down so your pinky's facing forwards. Now we're going to reverse it. Thumb backwards as far as it can go. Hit your barrier. Now rotate. So this is supination. You're externally rotating your arm. Start coming up. Make sure the chest is facing forward. All the way back up. This isn't OTA tennis. There's no cheating allowed here. All the way down. Sorry, I have to say that. Back down. Not that anybody here cheats in OTA tennis. All right, we're gonna do that on the other side here. That was right side. So you can feel already, hopefully the shoulder has already started to warm up. So let's do left side, all the way up, add in that resistance. We're gonna get through 2 reps on each side for this. Let's go. I want everybody to do this. Guys, elbow stays straight. Do not bend the elbow. What we're trying to do is just move that ball and socket joint, just the shoulder. Back as far as it can go. Pronate. Start to come around. Keep going. And back down. So the thumb is now facing behind you and the pinky's forward. Now reverse it. All the way back. Do not bend. You're not bowing to the person in front of you. Now you're going to turn outwards. Keep the chest facing forward. If you have to pause and reset, then reset. Add in the resistance, even on the way down. Really focus on adding that resistance. And one more time for us, guys. Forwards, nice and slow, nice and controlled. We're learning how to feel our body and understand what it's going through an entire range of motion. Pronate once you start getting to that barrier. Slowly start to come down. Add in that contraction. Don't forget to contract your muscles a little bit. We want to build some strength. And now we're going to reverse it. Thumb back. Hit your barrier. Rotate the opposite way. Slowly come up. And come all the way back down. All right, we're good with that so far. I know we went over that on day 1 for the new people. Like I said, great little way to warm up the shoulders and add something else into it. All right, this is good for all ages. Doesn't matter who you are here. All right, so.
Perfect. If I can just mention one thing, I forgot to say to the new people at the start, if anybody has questions, feel free to post them in the chat. And then perhaps we'll have a little bit of time to get to some of the questions, or if Bryon sees the questions as he goes along, maybe he can answer some of the specific ones. So yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to post them. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You guys won't hurt my feelings at all. So if you think I'm full of crap too, call me out on it. That's okay. I like a little challenge on a Wednesday. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, we spoke about this a little bit before. The last day, on day 1, we did some rotations and tried to mimic the serve a little bit. So we're going to do this a little bit of a different way today. Because with tennis, we're coordinating various parts of our bodies, and there's a sequence to what we do when we hit a forehand or backhand or serve. There's motions that occur, you know, when you serve, where your hips move, then your trunk, then your shoulder, then your forearm and into your wrist, and so on and whatnot. So depending on what you want to do with this, you can sequence it a little bit differently. For time's sake here today, we're going to go through a bit of a sequence. What we're going to do is we're going to do this with one arm at a time. You're going to start with your hands facing the ceiling, just one arm at a time. And all we're going to do is, you can either keep your arm completely to your side, but what I like is slightly in front, so just about 10 degrees or so. And what we're going to do in this position here is, we're going to try to rotate through this part of the arm first, okay? So we're going to take this and we're going to rotate as far as we can. Not moving my hand and forearm yet. This hasn't moved yet. So I'm rotating through this joint right here, your shoulder joint, as far as it can go, without hiking that shoulder up and without taking my head and bringing it to that side. I'm not doing this. Once you can't go any further, then what you're going to start to do is you're going to start to rotate through the hand, and you might be able to get even more rotation through this joint right here. And you're going to go all the way down, and then we're going to reverse it. You're going to go hand first. You're going to try to bring that up as far as it can go. Then we're going to rotate through that whole unit. Okay? So again, with tennis, you got the socket, and then you got that ball, which is this bone right here, and it needs to have the ability to rotate through and be prepared to do that, especially when you're hitting serves and overhead. So we're all going to do this together. If you want to stand, stand. If you want to sit, whatever you feel comfortable with. We're going to start with the right side. So chest facing forward, head facing forward, shoulder stays down, palm facing the ceiling. We're going to rotate through this joint first. So you're going to rotate forward. So internal rotation. The hand's going to come with it, but you're leading through this part of the arm as far as you can go. Once you hit that point, now you're going to use the hand and forearm to start to pronate even more. And you're going to try to go as far as you can. So if your thumb was here, you want your thumb pointing down, and potentially, especially if you've been playing tennis almost your whole life, it should be pointing backwards a little bit. Okay, you should get a lot of range of motion through this. And then we're going to reverse it. Don't try not to move this. We're going to move our hand and wrist first, all the way facing the ceiling. And then we're going to try to rotate a little bit more through the whole arm as a unit. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. Palm facing up. Let's start with the arm first. If you want to add in a 30% resistance, add in resistance too. And then forearm, and then the rest of the arm, and reverse it. Let's go hand and forearm first, add in the resistance, because it starts warming up that elbow as well as we go through this. It's not just the shoulder. And facing back up. Okay, shake that out a little bit. We're going to do the same thing on the left side. So palm facing upwards. Let's add in a little bit of resistance here. Let's sequence this bone here, which is called your humerus. We're going to rotate internally as far as you can. Then the hand and forearm. Rotate, rotate. Once you've gone as far as you can go, take a deep breath in through your stomach, deep breath out, and try to go a little bit more. See if you can get a little bit more internal rotation. Pause, and we're going to reverse it. Hand and forearm first, try to get it facing forward. Then you're going to move the rest of the body as one unit. Once you get to that end range, pause, take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and try to rotate just a little bit more. You're trying to get more out of that shoulder joint. And we're going to go one more time. Rotate everything as one unit, then forearm, and now the rest of the shoulder. Try to get as much as you can out of it. You can take a deep breath in, deep breath out, try to get more. And you'll notice when you breathe, you might be able to get a little bit more range out of it. We're going to do it again, reverse it. So we're going to go hand and wrist first, then the rest of the shoulder complex, and all the way back. All right. So again, if you're a coach here or a trainer here, depending on what you want out of your player, you can sequence it differently than I have. Again, there's no proper way to do it. We're going to do this one more time on each side, but now what we're going to do is we're going to get to the contact point as if you were hitting a serve. So almost pretend like you're hitting your serve, you're up overhead, and now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate again. So we're going to try to rotate through the shoulder as far as you can. You're going to try to pronate, and then you're going to use the wrist and the forearm, keeping that elbow straight. Once you get to that end position, take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and try to pronate even more. Now we're going to reverse it. We're going to go forearm first. So don't move that shoulder joint. Once you hit that end range, now try to rotate everything as one. Rotate, take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and try to go a little further. Beautiful. We're going to do the same thing on the other arm here. So pretend if you weren't a lefty, or if you're a righty, just pretend like you're hitting your lefty serve here. You never know. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pronate through the shoulder as far as it can go. So I'm trying to point my bicep at the screen. Pronate. And now I'm going to start to move my hand and wrist and see if I can get more out of it. And again, I'm not hiking up. Keep that shoulder down here. Again, if it hikes up and that's what you want, then that's fine. But for the intent here today, we're going to keep that shoulder down. We're going to keep the elbow locked. Now we're going to deep breath in, deep breath out, and add in a little bit more. See if you can squeeze a little bit more rotation out of that shoulder. Now you're gonna pause and reverse it. We're gonna go forearm first. Now we're gonna go rest of the shoulder. Once you get to the end, pause, deep breath in, deep breath out, and see if you can get a little bit more. Beautiful. So guys, you can see when it comes to working the shoulder as well, and you see a lot of this, and again, there's nothing wrong with this, but it's just adding on. When I typically see players warm up, whether it's on the professional tour or it's just juniors, you see a lot of rubber band kind of stuff like this. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. This is just adding another element onto that as well. And if you don't have a rubber band, well, guess what? You can still warm up that shoulder just as well, if not even a little bit better, because you start really going through full range of motion. So on your own, play around with different positions with this. Like you can do it with your arm backwards. You can do it with your arm here. It's infinite. Like look at all the degrees of motion you can work through your arm. Because again, when you're playing tennis and you have to move for a volley in a weird or awkward position, you want to make sure that that shoulder's been in that position before. Okay? Perfect. I'll try not to discriminate against the lefties anymore. I apologize. You guys are tough to play against here. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go to the wrist. We're going to go back to the shoulder in a little bit. Just want to give those shoulders a little bit of a break here. So with regards to the wrist, there's various ways again of warming up the wrist before you play tennis. What we're going to do here is not only are we going to try to warm up the wrist, but we're also going to work on the grip. We're going to work on your grip strength as well. And we're going to work on your grip strength, not just in a neutral position, because we know with tennis, the wrist gets bent as we're playing tennis as well. So with this warm up, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to maintain a pretty big 70 to 80% of your maximum squeeze as you can when we go through this range of motion. And what you'll start to see as we go through this, you'll lose some of that strength. Your muscles won't work as well. And there's a reason for that I'm not going to get into right now, but it is something that you can improve on and to potentially translate over into the court to help you while you're playing tennis from a performance standpoint, but hopefully also from an injury risk standpoint as well. So just like what we did with the shoulder, we're going to try to isolate the wrist. So there's various ways you can do this. You can do this by just keeping your arm tucked into your side. You can do this one with your arm, on your lap, however you feel comfortable with this. I'm going to demonstrate it with it on my lap here. So I'm just sitting. And what we're going to do is you're going to grip. So if you want to start at 50%, start at 50%. If you're comfortable with it, you can start and kind of up the amount of squeeze that you have. If you want to put a tennis ball in your hand, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for you. So let's just start with, gripping your own hand here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to grip at about a 50 to 80% squeeze contraction, and we're going to go through full range of motion. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to bring it, and we can all do this together. So we're going to grip. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to hammer down. So we're going to try to bring the wrist in this position. So I'm not moving my elbow. I'm just moving my wrist this way, okay? Keep squeezing. And now what we're going to do is we're going to follow around. So now we're creating a circle. So now I'm flexing. Hope you can see this on the screen. So I'm basically making a big circle with my wrist, okay? Squeeze. Now when you get into this position here, this is where you're going to notice you're going to start to lose some of that grip strength. I really want you to really focus once you're in this position to really try to engage as much as you can through the thumb and the fingers as well. And then you're going to finish that rotation. So I'm not letting my forearm rotate. You're going to come out. So it's down and out. And you're going to keep following it all the way back around. So we're creating a big circle. That's all we're doing. We're doing some rotations under that tension that you're creating. And now we're in extension. So I'm in this position. Now bring it out again. And now I'm going to come all the way back down. I'm trying to show you from different positions here. So big circles all the way. And once you're down, Focus on squeezing more, okay? If your hand cramps, that's okay. And all the way back around. So now we're going to reverse that. So now we're going to come into this position. So I'm bringing my wrist this way. Now I'm coming down. Keep squeezing out and around. And I know, I understand, and I've said this before, some of these exercises are not sexy. They're like, you might get bored with. These are extremely important. I see tons of wrist injuries with my tennis players. And I feel like if we can build the strength through the entire range of motion, we might be able to reduce some of that risk, okay? Because everybody likes to stretch this way and this way, but everybody forgets we have this range of motion as well. It gets neglected a lot, okay? We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So for all my lefties out there, start with your wrist in a neutral position, squeeze. Now we're gonna bring it, so if you're facing the camera, we're gonna bring it inwards towards your nose. Squeeze your hand. Now we're gonna bring it towards the camera. So keep it in, but now we're extending the wrist. Keep squeezing, squeeze your hand, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Now we're bringing it this way. It's still down and now in. That way, as far as you can go. Now we're gonna start coming towards you and out. So out and down, squeeze. Grip your hand harder than you think. Do not let that grip go. So now we're in this position. Now we're gonna bring it this way. Slow it down. If you speed up and skip through a certain region, go back and slow it down through that region, okay? And all the way back down. And reverse. We're gonna go in. Every once in a while, pause and squeeze. Grip strength is extremely important for tennis players. And as well, they've even showed it as we start to age. It's very important for some of the elderly people as well, making sure you can maintain grip strength. And this is a great little thing. So shake that out. Again, we just did like 1 or 2 reps on both sides. Hopefully you can feel how warm that wrist is already, okay? Again, it wasn't just a passive, okay, I'm gonna bring my wrist and do this stuff. We're adding a contraction to it as well, okay? So that's the wrist. We're gonna go through one more wrist exercise later. Right now, we're gonna do a little shoulder exercise. So for this exercise here, I'm gonna demonstrate it standing, but the way we're gonna do it together is we're gonna do it face down. So if you like torturing yourself and you like really working your shoulders, this is a great little exercise that you can do on your own. And again, if it's part of your warm-up, don't fatigue yourself too much. But again, I'm gonna demonstrate it so you can all see, but we're gonna be doing it face down. So you're gonna picture me laying on my stomach. And what we're gonna do is, you're gonna start with your hands behind your back. So I'm face down. The back of my hands are on my bum, okay? They're on my bum. Then what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna keep my hands there. I'm gonna raise my elbows up. Elbows up towards the ceiling as high as they can go. Once they've gone as high as they can go, I'm going to lift my hands off my bum as high as they can go without moving my elbows. Once that's done, then I'm going to extend my elbows. I'm going to try to get towards the ceiling. So I'm trying to do this as much as I can without moving my body. I'm going to keep it as far back towards the ceiling as I can, and I'm going to start to raise up and rotate. So you're going to see your thumbs start to rotate, and you're going to keep going up, 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 all the way up until you're overhead. And then you're going to bring your hands down and elbows down. And then you're going to reverse it. So it would be hands off your head, sorry, elbows up, then hands off, then elbows, and then start to rotate, and you're going to come back down to that starting position. So hands, then elbows. All right. So this was modified by this guy Buckberger, who did a bunch of shoulder exercises. I really like this exercise for the shoulder. The key is with this exercise, when you're on the ground, you're not moving your body. Your body's going to want to move. You're not going to do it. If you're not comfortable on the ground doing this, then feel free to do it standing up. The idea is you're trying to keep that arm as far away and as close to the ceiling as you can. So we're going to do this together, and I'm going to go on the ground as well, and I'm going to tell you to pause at certain points, okay? When I say pause, that means try to get further towards the ceiling here, okay? So I'm going to try to set this up as best as I can so you guys can hopefully see me. There we go. Okay, so nose into the ground. You can put a towel down, whatever you please. Keep your ribs down. The back of your hands are going to be on your bum, okay? You're going to keep your ribs down, meaning I want you to contract your abs a little bit, okay? That way the low back doesn't move. First thing we're going to do is you're going to bring your elbows towards the ceiling as high as they can go. So you'll feel the shoulder blades move a little bit. Really raise the elbows as high as they can go, trying to bring the elbows together. Once you've hit your end range, now lift your hands off your bum without moving your elbows. So reach, so the palms of your hands try to hit the ceiling. Once you've hit your end range, now extend your elbows. You can extend. Now your back of your hand, your palm should be facing the ceiling. And now what we're going to try to do is reach for the ceiling even more without moving your chest and low back. And now we're going to start to raise overhead and start to turn your thumbs so that way they're moving towards facing the ceiling. And when you get to about 90 degrees, your thumb should be facing the ceiling, and then you're going to raise it all the way up overhead. So your thumbs are facing the ceiling, and then your hands back on your head, and then elbows down. So your hands should be on your head, behind your head, and elbows down. And now we're going to reverse it. Elbows towards the ceiling, hands off your head, extend your elbows, pause, try to reach higher towards the ceiling. So I want you to really try to get that extension. Pause. Now start to pronate. So meaning try to point your thumbs down towards the ground as you're bringing your arms down. So once your arms are beside you, so you do the letter T. Picture yourself at the letter T with your thumbs down. I want everybody to pause there. I want you to keep your ribs down, so contract your stomach, and I want you to try to bring your pinkies towards the ceiling more. So really lift up. You're bringing the shoulder blades a little bit closer together, and now we're ready to continue to go down towards your bum. Continue to rotate so that now your palms are facing the ceiling. Pause. Try to get even further up. You're trying to stay as high up as you can, okay? And then you're going to come all the way over your bum, bend your elbows, bring your hands down, and now bring your elbows down, okay? We're going to do that again. That's one repetition. We're going to do one more together. Elbows first, high up as they can. Work hard. Try to get a little bit more. Now raise your hands off your bum as high as they can go. Now extend your elbows and try to lift up towards the ceiling. Now start to rotate so that way your thumbs are starting to work and rotate towards the ceiling. Once you get beside your body, you're going to pause. Oh, my voice cracked there. You're going to pause. I'm either going through puberty or I need to drink some water. Thumbs up towards the ceiling, higher, higher. Now we're going to keep going. Finish it up overhead so your thumbs are facing towards the ceiling. And now you're going to bend your elbows back to your head and then elbows down. So that's 1.5 repetitions there. We're going to finish this. We're going to bring elbows up as high as they can off the ground, or your hands off your head. Extend your elbows. Now you're going to start to rotate. Pause. See if you can get higher up. Pause and get higher up. Come on. Good. Now start to rotate. Following through. Pause. Everybody can get higher. I know they can. And keep coming down. The back of their hands on your bum. Now the elbows down. And take a break for a second. Good. I hope that you guys felt that. How did that feel for everybody? Just most people are on camera here. Did everybody feel that? Just give me a thumbs up if it felt good. again, it's a great little exercise that you can do on your own. And that's just 2 repetitions there. Like that's 2 reps. And you can see how hard you have to work sometimes for, you know, some of those repetitions. But again, the beauty of that exercise there is, again, you're taking that shoulder joint and you're bringing it through a lot of rotation, and you're teaching your body to control that shoulder, especially when you get up overhead where you're not compensating and having to arc. Because again, a lot of tennis players that I've noticed, they have difficulty getting up overhead without compensating. So if you think about that when they're going up for an overhead or a serve, they're lacking that range of motion. That motion is extremely important for tennis players, all right? Otherwise, they're gonna shear through that shoulder joint or put some more stress on the low back or their abdomen as well, especially if they have recurrent abdominal pulls. All right, so moving on, we're gonna do
just a little tip for everybody with Zoom. I don't know if some of you are new, but you can use the speaker view instead of the gallery view, and then if you will be able to see the demonstration a little more clear. So it's just a little tip, like if you're on your laptop, it'll be in the top right corner. And so try to change it to speaker view, and that way Bryon will be bigger on your screen and you'll see him very clearly then.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Somebody had a question there saying, if you keep extending, wouldn't that break or injure your arm? So typically, as long as you're doing it actively by yourself and under a slow and controlled range, you're not going to really break your arm. If you, like I said, if you start to feel pain, then you would back off a little bit of those degrees. But essentially, you should be able to move actively as far as you can through an entire range of motion, depending on what you want to do without creating an injury. The idea is we're putting you through end ranges of motion. End range means right at the end. I can't get any further. And we're teaching you to be able to contract at that end range, whether it's a lengthened end range or whether it's at a shortened end range. So we want you to be able to be strong at all ranges of motion. So will you injure your arm? If you go really quick or if you start feeling pain, potentially, but again, you should be able to own all ranges of motion that you can actively or even passively move through, okay? So hopefully that answers your question there. Okay, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna do wrist flexion. So again, we're gonna get into the wrist and forearm a little bit. A lot of people, like I said, they might lack some of the gym equipment. With tennis players, you know, the elbow joint is extremely important. We see a lot of injuries on the outside of the elbow, on the inside of the elbow. So tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, whatever you want to call it. And there are different reasons for that. You know, it could be just the load and the demand you're placing on your body is too much. It can also be from a technique issue or some other issues, you know, either higher up or lower down in the chain. And the only way to determine that is more from an assessment. But one great little exercise to start to build some of the strength, especially on that inner, on the elbow there, on the inside of the elbow there, is so going through what we call a little bit of a eccentric motion. So we're trying to lengthen the muscle and produce a contraction as we go through it. So I'm just gonna set up here. So what we're going to do for this exercise here is we're going to get on our hands and knees, and you're going to sit on your bum. Your fingertips are going to be facing forward. So if you see the angle of my wrist, it's not at 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. I'm backed off of that position a little bit. So what that means is these muscles in the forearm here are a little bit shortened. And what we're going to do is we're going to contract the muscle and then lengthen it. And what research has shown us is that most injuries typically occur in the eccentric phase as the muscle is lengthening. So what we're going to do with this exercise is we're going to produce a contraction as that muscle is lengthening in order to prepare the muscles in this area to withstand that type of force, okay? So we're gonna all do this together. So we're gonna sit on our bums, hands into the ground. And once we're into that position there, what we're gonna do is just like you were starting a gas pedal on a car, you're going to take your wrist and you're gonna try to flex it into the ground. So you're trying to do this. You obviously can't push the ground away from you unless you're Hulk or Thor. I'm watching too many Avengers movies. So you're gonna push down into the ground. So try to do this. Now, when you're doing that, what I like to say is don't just go at 100%, slowly start to ramp up. So push down to 10%, then 20%, 30% of your maximum contraction, all the way into what you feel is a safe type of contraction, okay? So you're gonna flex your wrist down. So you should feel it in your flexors of your arm, this part here. So we're all gonna do it. We're gonna try to slowly push down, push the fingertips, push the balls of the hand into the ground. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna maintain that contraction, keep trying to push. And what we're gonna do is we're slowly gonna start to sit up off our feet and keep pushing as we start to come up over top of our wrist. So we're essentially lengthening those muscles and producing a contraction. And now once we're there, we're gonna maintain that contraction, keep trying to start that gas pedal and come all the way back down. Do not lose that pressure on the ground. So if you had a scale, if you were on a scale weighing yourself, which is a really good thing that you can actually use, is maintaining that same amount of pressure throughout the entire time. So we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do about 4 reps together here, okay? So gas pedal down, 10% of your maximum, 20, 30, 40, 60. Now your safest amount of contraction, trying to start that gas pedal, hold it, and now we're gonna maintain it, keep pushing the fingertips down. We're slowly gonna come off our bums, keep pushing the hands into the ground. I'm not putting a lot of weight into it, but I'm contracting down, and you're gonna go as far forward as you can into that wrist extension, and then you're gonna maintain it even as you sit back down. So now we're working that concentric phase, that shortening phase of the muscle. Good. Relax your arms for a second. We're gonna do 2 more together. Push the wrist down into the ground. So flex through the wrist. Try to push the ground away from you. Push it and pull at the same time. You're trying to pull. And now we're gonna get off our bums. Keep pushing, keep pushing. Keep trying to flex your wrist. Keep trying to start that gas pedal. Keep the palms on the ground. And then slowly back down and maintain that contraction. We're gonna do it one more time. Relax, start to ramp up that contraction to your safest maximum contraction. Once you're there, we're gonna start to lengthen that muscle by extending the wrist a little bit more. And then slowly back down. So again, a great way to not only build some strength in these muscles from the elbow all the way to a wrist, but it also helps improve your range of motion in that wrist as well. And again, kind of a little bit of a pearl here. Sometimes stretching is a great way to improve range of motion, especially, passively if somebody holds something, but eccentrically loading, so that lengthening process we talked about, a tissue, the research has also shown that you can increase range of motion almost just as well, if not better, when you add in that eccentric load through various body parts. And as well as because we're doing that, we're adding that load and training eccentrically, hopefully we can reduce a little bit risk of injury as well through that. All right. If that hurt a lot, then I would say stop doing it and try to figure out why it's hurting. Don't go through that entire range if you are feeling pain when you do it. Okay, so maybe don't go so far over your wrist, or don't put as much pressure as you can on that actual wrist. So if it's on fire, just depends on what fire. Sometimes when I say it's on fire, that's a good thing. So it depends. If it's ouchy fire, that's not good. If it's on fire, then that's a good thing, maybe, if you understand. If not, just write it in the comment section there. Okay? So again, great little exercise to build up some strength. around that wrist forearm, and as well as potentially increase a little bit more range of motion if that is what your intent is with this. But again, in self-isolation, a lot of us don't have weight, so a great way to build some strength as well. Okay, so we're gonna go into another shoulder exercise. We could do this one, again, if you wanna do it face down, do it face down, but I'm gonna show it and I'll explain it. We'll all do it either standing or you can sit on your bum. But what we did before is we moved both arms through an entire range at the same time. What we're gonna do through this is we're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna move one arm in one direction and we're gonna move the other arm in the other direction. So the starting position for this, and I'm gonna demonstrate it really quickly, is you're gonna put one hand over top like you're gonna scratch your back and the other hand here. So you're almost trying to touch your fingertips together, if you will. Once you're in this position here, you're gonna try to raise your elbows backwards. Then you're gonna try to raise your hands off your body. So the back of your hand on the bottom side, the top of your hand on this side. Then you're gonna extend the elbows. Try to extend back. So I'm trying to do this again. And we're gonna try to rotate and reverse the position. So you get here, we go hands, then elbows, okay? And again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take our shoulder through full internal, external rotation, but now we're adding in different degrees of rotation and movement as well with this, okay? So we're gonna all do this together. If you wanna lay on your stomach, feel free. If you wanna stay standing up, stay standing up. I'm gonna do it standing up, that way everybody can see as well, and I'll try to move in different degrees. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna start with the left hand on top. We're gonna stand with the right hand on the bottom. So try to touch your fingertips if you can. Get as far up as you can in this position here. And we're gonna start together. We're gonna bring elbows back as far as they can go. The hands stay on the body. Try to maintain that. Hopefully you get a little bit of a cramp as you do that, because you really wanna work for this. Now we're gonna raise your hands off your body as far back as they can go. Extend the elbows, pause, and try to reach further back. So I'm reaching back this way without arching through my back. Now I'm gonna start to come around. So I'm gonna start to move. And you can see my hands start to rotate, because they have to, as they go through that entire range. Pause, try to go further back. I want you to be reaching as far back as you can. Your arm typically will not snap and break. If it starts to hurt, back off. Bend the elbows, hands first, then relax the elbows. And now we're gonna reverse it. That's a half a repetition. Elbows back as far as they can go. Hands off the body as far as they can go. Extend the elbows. Pause, reach further back. Now start to rotate and switch positions. Pause, extend further back. Extend, meaning try to bring it back more. Start to rotate, keep rotating. Pause, build up some tension, add in some internal resistance as you do that. Start to come right around. Once you can't go further, then we bend our elbows, then we bring our hands down, then we bring our elbows down, okay? And we're gonna do one more repetition just like that. So left hand should be on top, right hand should be on the bottom. We're gonna raise our hands off our bodies. Or should I go elbows off our bodies, sorry. Hands off our bodies. There's no wrong way to do this. Extend the elbows, reach further back, start to rotate. One arm's going into external resistance, rotation, the other one's going into internal rotation. Pause, try to get a little further back. Keep rotating, keep reaching back, keep fighting for every degree of motion. Keep bend the elbows. Now we're gonna drop hands, then elbows down. So that's 1.5 repetitions. Now we're going to lift elbows off, hands off, extend the elbows, nice and slow, nice and controlled. Work, one arm goes into internal rotation, one arm goes into external rotation. Pause, go further back. I really want you to fight for every degree. Keep trying to reach behind you, reach behind you, reach behind you as you go through that full excursion. Bend the elbows when you can't go any further. Bring the hands down and then the elbows down. Good. So again, that's 2 repetitions there. If this is really difficult for you, you might not be doing 12 repetitions for this. But again, it's only as difficult as you make it on yourself. Okay? So if you just go through the motion and you're just doing this, you're not going to get anything out of it. But if you pause every once in a while and try to extend and add in a little bit of resistance, you're going to get more out of this. The tissue is going to adapt more. You're going to build some more strength, some more, ability to withstand some of those forces that we see on the tennis court on a daily basis. So great little drill. Like I said, I give this, I'll give this to certain tennis players. Again, it comes down to the intent of what you're trying to do, but a great little drill there. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do is, like I mentioned before, you see a lot of tennis players that can't get their arm up overhead without using the compensation to get it overhead. Again, there could be various reasons of it. It could be like a bony block. It could be some soft tissue restricting it, or it could be the nervous system just not allowing for that body to go through that full excursion. There's various reasons for this. But one of the things you notice is the lats, these big muscles that you feel on the side that go into that low back. It connects from your low back all the way up to the shoulder. And sometimes if it doesn't have the ability to extend, then and have the compliance, you have difficulty getting that arm up overhead. So this little drill here, similar to what we did with the wrist, we're going to bring those lats and all the tissue here, not just the lats, but all the other tissue around that area through an eccentric and concentric range of motion. So again, if it hurts as you're doing this on the wrist, you can go up on your knuckles. But what we're going to do is we're going to reverse the motion we did last time. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over top of your wrist. And what we're going to do is, once we're on top of our wrists here, I don't have all my weight on it, but just enough. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to scoop the ground and bring the ground towards me, meaning I'm going to try to take the ground and do this. Okay? Does everybody see that? I'm taking the ground and I'm doing this. So I'm pretending like I have super glue on my hands. They're on the ground. I can't actually move my hands and slide. And I'm going to try to engage all this tissue here. And what we're going to do is, once you have that engaged, and I try to draw it down, I'm going to sit back onto my heels. What this is doing is, it's now elongating those lats while it's under tension. So we spoke about how eccentrics can help with range of motion in particular cases. This is a great little drill to potentially help some range of motion, but also for shoulder injuries, for certain injuries, this isn't a bad little drill as well. Again, talk to whoever your healthcare provider is before you start adding this in if you do have any issues. So here's what we're going to do. Push the ground away from you first. So I want you nice and tall. Get nice and tall with your head. You're going to try to pull the ground towards you. So I'm trying to do this. So we're all going to do this together. We're going to do 4 reps together. Pull the ground towards you is 10% of your maximum, 30%, ramp it up. You should feel it right underneath the armpits there. And then what we're going to do is maintain it and slowly sit back onto your heels. As you're sitting back on your heels, I really want you to try to pull the ground towards you. Keep pulling that ground towards you. And then once you're at the end, you're going to sit back up, but I want you to pull yourself out of that position. Okay, relax. We're going to do it again. Start at 0%. Start to pull the ground towards you. All the way to your maximum safe contraction. Pull the ground towards you as you sit back up on your heels. or as you sit onto your heels. Good. Maintain that pressure you have on the ground and the pull you have to the ground, and start to sit out of that position. So keep pulling yourself. It should be slow and controlled. You should really feel this. If you're not feeling this, this is something that you can be working on to try to get that mind-body connection here. We're going to go again. Pull the ground towards you. Sit back up onto the heels here. All the way onto your heels. And maintain it. So not only is that going to work these muscles here, it also gets the inside of the elbow as well. And again, when we go up to extend for the serve, we know that this tissue in this area here gets a lot of force transmitting through it. This exercise here also helps with that as well. Okay? All right. Oh, we're almost out of time here. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do, you know, that one we just did. I just want everybody, just after that lat exercise we just did, I want you to try one repetition. We're going to do it together and just see after we just did that, if you can get further back, or it might be the reverse. It might have fatigued your nervous system out a little bit too much, and now you can't even get as far back. So I want everybody to just try one repetition and see if that made a little bit difference on that exercise there. So with this one, I'm going to start right over left. We're going to raise elbows all the way back, hand back, extend the elbows, start to rotate, pause, try to come back a little bit more. Just keep rotating, really reach behind you. Bend the elbows, bring the hands down, bring the elbows down. Elbows back, hands off your body, extend the elbows, extend the arm, and start to rotate. Pause, try to get further back, see if you can get through it. Work your way down, bend the elbows, bring the hands down, bring the elbows down. So you can see when you start warming up the body a little bit, hopefully you either increase the range or maintain it. But again, if you actually lose it, this is extremely important as well, because it just goes to show you sometimes you could do a little bit too much. And if you're warming up your athletes or you're warming up yourself as an athlete, you want to make sure that you're not doing too much during the warm-up to completely fatigue you out and take it away from other elements of your game. So again, a very important point with regards to this. So anyways, good. I'm seeing some comments here that we saw some increased range of motion. That's great. Good, good, good. So anyways, that's, you know, hopefully the hour's up there. We hit a lot just in that hour there. Like I said, there's no right and wrong way to do these exercises and sequence these exercises. It's very individualized, you know, hopefully towards the athlete and towards yourself. Next week, so hopefully you guys will join us next week. And we're going to start to incorporate the core as well. When I say core, I don't just mean the stomach. I mean the back, the side, the thoracic spine, the neck, and even into the glutes and groin a little bit. So we're going to kind of put it all together. And again, you can add into hopefully some of your repertoire from a strength and conditioning standpoint, but as well as a warm-up standpoint. And you know, I do feel it'll help a lot of tennis players and yourselves as well. Like some of these exercises, I'll give it to, you know, not just tennis players. I'll give it to grandma. I'll give it to whoever. So it just depends on what you're doing with these movements. But just want to thank everybody again for coming out. If you have any questions, just throw it up on the chat part. You can also email me. It's on the ONcourt.ca, I think somewhere there, but it's bweinberg@highpointclinic.com. Yesterday, or I think 2 days ago, I posted a really good exercise for the lower extremities, for the calves. on Instagram. So it's athletic movement assessment. If you want to follow us there, like I said, I try to post some exercises, me and my business partner, also some research on certain things that you guys might find useful if you want. And other than that, hopefully everybody's staying safe and isolated. And I really appreciate you guys spending the time with me. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Spread the message to your friends and have a good rest of the week. So if you have questions, we'll stick around for a couple minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bryon, for the great presentation. And as always, guys, we will post at ONcourt.ca the recording of the video so that you can go back and review the exercises if there was any information you missed. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for joining in. And yeah, if anybody has a question, you can post in the chat. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you all next week.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Bryon.
All right, Mike, you're welcome. Thanks for setting this up again.
For sure. All right. You take care.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.